Welcome back to The Rebel's Edge. I'm Jon Najarian. My brother Pete will be joining shortly to discuss exactly what President Trump is doing other than the Trump dance, of course, which he always does. And he was doing that with the Malaysian dancers that greeted him. And he had a lot to say about rare earths and the deals that he's looking forward to striking with China. That's driving market optimism today. And we'll tell you what else is driving it on today's Rebel's Edge.
And it's a take. All right. Well, I was listening to that intro. Let me tell you something. I think you're exactly right, John. I mean, I've not seen one of our presidents ever come off of how long was that? 20 hours or something? He had to go
20-hour flight. Yep.
To Malaysia. And he gets off, and the video of him dancing with those Malaysian dancers is phenomenal. I mean,
oh, yeah. And Pete, it wasn't just him. He comes off the plane and he sees all these Malaysian women dancing some sort of traditional dance, I guess. And the Malaysian prime minister or president, I'm not sure which, is with him, greeted him at the stairs as he came down. And then Trump starts dancing. And then the Malaysian president starts dancing too.
I tell you what.
Some huge deals with the guy.
Yeah. The entertainment value of just the watching, forget even the negotiations, just the watching of that after this 20-hour flight. And granted, we all know, I mean, there's plenty of room. You could sleep, you could do all these other things, but still, there's something about being in an airplane, right, for 20 hours that it just ain't right. But that was classic. Absolutely classic. And I'll tell you what, it looks like we're getting a lot of things done in a short period of time. He's visiting everybody, and he's catching a lot of flack from people, John, because they're like, well, what's he doing over there during the government shutdown? He's basically trying to figure out why they can't figure something out. That's what he's doing. But in the meantime, he's still working. He ain't shut down.
No. And by the way, Pete, the largest union in the United States for government workers just demanded that the Democrats reopen the government, because right now there's 55 votes. You need 60. The Republicans have 52 seats. They've got 3 Democrats that have come over to their side. They need 5 more in order to reopen the government. And the largest union, Pete, says, it's on you. And they basically pointed the finger at Schumer and so forth, saying, we've got 800,000 members, that some of whom are going without food and waiting in food lines and things. And it's because you will not let your members vote to open the government. But it's not a political program, folks. It's just an observation.
It is what it is.
All right. Let's get started, Pete, with macro. And we talked a little bit of macro already. I'll throw this in as well. The Argentina ETF, and every stock tied to Argentina in a positive way, is surging because Javier Milei and his party just crushed in the election. And so why does that matter? The ETFs are up better than 17%. Some of the stocks are up more than double that. So it's pretty much a celebration time in Buenos Aires, and you can bet President Trump was probably one of the first guys on the phone to congratulate him.
And if he was still in the U.S., he'd probably fly there and start doing some Malaysian dance. Anyway, that all being said, John, I think that the attitude right now is that people are feeling really comfortable about what could happen now over in China, the trade truce, as they want to call it, and all the rest of it. So I think that's as macro as it gets. If that can happen, John, and we can step back and not do this 100% tariffs and all the other things that are being thrown out there in the air and all the rest of it. And let's be honest, we've said it time and time again, earnings continue to be on a roll. Does everybody hit it and quit it? No, but about 80+% are. So yeah, the earnings season just continues on. This is a monster week though.
Yep. And as far as futures, Pete, I'll throw out there that gold, which was down 2%, then 3%, is down 4% now. Palladium is down 4%. The ones not getting hit quite as hard are silver, which is down more. It's down 4.5%. So my gosh, and the volume of some of these, Pete, the turnover in gold, 255,000 futures traded so far today. That tells you a lot because it's a safe haven. So if we're going to have good times, gold should sell off. It's selling off kind of hard.
Yep, they're beating it up pretty good. On the other side of things, John, I think there's two things that really stand out for me over the last 5 days, let's call it. Well, one of them is more like a month, but crude oil, the last 5 days, we've gone from $56 all the way up to $61.60. That's an amazing move and a pretty rapid move to the upside in that time frame. Next up, how about the volatility index? We started out the early part of October at 15 or 16. Get to mid-October, we get all the way up over 25. There was a lot of angst and people very nervous about a lot. You know where we are today? Well, we're back into the 15s or low 16s, but nonetheless, we're back to exactly where we started off the early part of October. So interesting to watch how quickly things are happening. A lot of that obviously having to do with the president, and I think optimism that at some point in time, maybe the government will be no longer shut down.
Yeah, I think we're getting closer and closer to that, as we said, with the largest union out there for government workers basically saying, get back to work, boys and girls. All right, let's hit some unusual activity, Pete, because Keurig Dr. Pepper, we had unusual activity in this name. They reported some great earnings, and KDP, as it's known, was $25.39 the first week of October. Well, here we are now at the end of October, and the stock is surging. It hit $30 today, Pete.
Wow.
Pulled back a little bit from 30, but nonetheless, just, a moon to the upside. And those calls that they were buying, the calls that gave them the right to own the stock at 25, when it goes to 30, they're worth at least $5. They were paying $1.40 for them. So this is another one of those. We'll have to be dancing, Pete.
We're going to be trumping. They're not going to call it dancing anymore. It'll be called trumping. Anyway, John, this whole thing with Keurig Dr. Pepper, the earnings were actually just directly in line. But when you look at the revenue was strong. You look at their net sales, that was up almost 14.5%. So that's strong. A lot of volume growth that they were able to accomplish, along with the free cash flow, John, $528 million in the quarter. I mean, so when you look at that and you look at the free cash flow that they've got of about $1.35 billion, this company is doing a lot of things that are working out very, very well for them, as you were just pointing out in this big, huge move on the stock itself. They also raised their sales outlook on top of everything else. So when you're looking at a stock with all of that and it's moving the way that it is, and oh, by the way, the PE, is it up in the 20s? No. 30s? No. It's 11. So this is a company where when you look at all the various aspects of them, they're looking pretty good right now, and they're absolutely ringing that bell, as we like to say, because they are on their way to the upside. And I don't know if it's necessarily just a one-day move. I think this is a company that has shown, and now what they're talking about as far as what they're seeing for an outlook, they're looking for another good quarter in front of them.
Probably going to have it too, Pete, because they've made an acquisition or two that aren't part of it yet. But when they fold those in, yeah, like you said, a couple quarters into the future might be an even bigger number. Yeah. All right, let's talk about Qualcomm, because we never talk about Qualcomm with data centers, but Qualcomm wants to change all that now, Pete. They have come out and said, you know what? We can make chips that are good for artificial intelligence. And in fact, we might even make better chips. So these chips are going to go on sale in 2026. They're called the AI 250, which is coming out in 2027, and the AI 200, which comes out next year. Now, these will be for data centers, Pete, and it will allow full rack systems to have as many as 72 chips acting as one computer. Now, that's big, and it's big from an energy standpoint as well as computing. So seems like NVIDIA and AMD are going to get a pretty stern bit of competition, Pete.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I bet you AMD and NVIDIA are not too happy about what's happening here with this new AI strategy they've got and the new data center chips that they're talking about here. And you hit it. You're right on the head. I mean, this A1 200 or AI 200, AI 250, pretty daggone impressive what they've been able to do in a fairly short period of time. These full rack GPUs that they're going to be competitive, John. I mean, they're going to see a little bit more competition coming out there now from the NVIDIA side and the AMD side. And it's interesting to me that Qualcomm finally made this move. I'm not sure what held them back for as long as they have been, John. You would have thought that they might have stepped up even a lot longer ago, but maybe they were just kind of waiting for whatever it might have been. But still, again, when I look at Qualcomm, and you just said it, it's been this steady eddy. I mean, it's solid. They got a PE of, call it 13, 14, something like that. They have an enormous amount of free cash flow that doesn't hurt at all, $5.5 billion worth of free cash flow. So when you see this thing up, what, 15, 16, 17% today, I think it is up there for all the right reasons, because they now are in that conversation that everybody else always has about NVIDIA and AMD being the kings of the AI world. Well, I think that they might have added another king.
Yeah, and Pete, the normal turnover for the last 7 days has been 7 million shares. Mm-hmm. Today, 55 million. Halfway through the day. So that's why they drove between that and the shorts. They drove it to a 52-week high of 205 today, from like a 169 close or something like that. So this is a big deal, folks. Pay attention when that much paper or money flows into a stock like this. Yeah. All right, critical metals, Pete. It's not just CRML. That is the name of that firm, though, Critical Metals. But whether it's U.S. rare earths or MP materials or LAC, any of these that have really benefited from the squeeze that China put on when they threatened to control and limit the amount of rare earth elements, or REEs, out of China. So that's what Trump's going over there to fix, Pete. And he's also told them that if they don't, he's going to give them that, like you said, 100% tariff. Mm-hmm. Well, he already cut a deal with Malaysia and Australia on this trip. And so China's not exactly negotiating from strength, as well as the fact that they really need to hit the biggest market in the world, us, with their products. And if they don't have us, because 100% tariff would pretty much eliminate most of their stuff, this is a really big deal. And it's the first time in a long time that all those stocks that I mentioned on the critical metals side are trading to the downside.
Yeah, they're all getting hit. They're all equally getting hit, it seems like. Down 15% here, 17% there, maybe 10% on the lower end of things. But yeah, the competition out there, all of them in that same sort of space, the minerals and the metals and whatever. It's pretty interesting, John. And then Bessent's out there, and, you know, obviously he's trying to work on some of these deals along with what the president's been able to do. I would ask you this, and this is not a positive Trump thing. It's just a matter of just looking at things the way they are. I don't know that we've seen a president who's gone this aggressively out there and going and executing and getting some of the things done that he has done on this specific trip. I mean, and other trips out in the past, but this trip, John, because this is as important as anything. I mean, when we heard about this whole thing and China wanting to hold back and not doing deals with the rare earths and all the rest of it, that certainly did hurt things and give us a reason to all of a sudden say, hey, well, we need to start doing something here, but that's going to be something into the future. What about the right now? And I think what these deals are doing is giving us now the right now as far as what we're able to do with all these rare earths that are, they're a demand for just about everything we do, it seems like, right? I mean, from the military side of things to the medical side of things, I mean, you take a spot and somehow or another, the rare earths are probably a part of it.
Yep, certainly are. And, you know, whether it's EVs like Elon Musk, as well as GM and Rivian and all that, Lucid, all those folks need lithium for those batteries. Mm-hmm. And then you've got the missiles and the defense stuff that we need the rare earths for as well. You're right, Pete. Mm-hmm. All right, let's hit BBIO. Last stock of the day, BridgeBio. They got their phase 3, Pete. They reported positive results for their phase 3 Fortify study for basically muscular dystrophy. And we always root for these companies that are that close to finding, if not a cure, at least some way that they can keep the disease at bay. And these guys moving through phase 3 like this, Pete, maybe they will be one of the success stories in this space.
Yep, and it's a huge win. I mean, when you look at what they were able to do, John, here in this phase 3, and they achieved the primary and the secondary analysis endpoints that people are looking for over the last 12 months. This is fantastic news. It really is. It's fantastic news for all those that are suffering, but it's also fantastic news for the company itself, because you know what? It's a tough spot to be in that sort of an area where, you know, it's all or none. And these guys have worked their tails off. I'll tell you what, the longer I looked at this company, John, the more interested I was, because of the fact that they have quite a few different, they've got 4 different drugs right now in phase 3. They've already got one that's commercial. And then obviously this good news, and the next thing they're going to be doing is now filing for this new drug application with the FDA. So that's something that could happen as early as mid-2026. That's great. They do have a fairly significant cash burn, so this is good news for them, because this is the kind of thing that could probably give them a little bit of a boost, and then a big boost when things actually start to move ahead. So shorts, about 10 to 15% shorts. They're getting squeezed pretty good today. Stock up about 17%. I'd like to see them get even squeezed more, John, because I think this is a really, really cool company, this Bridge Biopharma. I think they're doing a lot of really great work for people. And let's hope that they can get a few more of these into that phase 3. And when they get into that phase 3, maybe they can get themselves to that new drug application level.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a look, Pete, at somebody who's going to break down the brackets for us, because we are getting close. I mean, as you would say, we're halfway through the NFL season, but college football playoffs right around the corner. I mean, as we get towards Thanksgiving, we're going to know who's who in the pew, as they say, Pete. So let's let this guy break it down for us.
I'm going to be crowning a national champion. Let's go through my bracket. First off, 12 versus 5. USF, your group of 5 team, versus Georgia Tech, your ACC champion. I got Georgia Tech getting upset by the Bulls. For my 9-8 matchup, I've got Oregon versus Notre Dame, a classic matchup. Oregon advances over Notre Dame. A little bit shaky all season long.
I agree with that.
Oregon still looks like a championship caliber team.
Although Oregon
6,
struggled here and there.
Vanderbilt versus the Big 12 champion, Cincinnati. No one's paying attention to Brendan Sorsby. He has been awesome, but Vanderbilt still shocks the world, gets on to round 2. My 10-7 matchup, the Miami Hurricanes, 11-1, not the ACC championship game, but they're in against Georgia from the SEC, and guess what? Miami advances. I still think their offensive and defensive line are good. Carson Beck gets his revenge game because he
all know where he came from. He came from Georgia.
First quarterfinal matchup: USF against Texas A&M. You had the upset Cinderella
Texas
story.
A&M going all the way, baby.
Texas A&M too strong.
A&M
too
is
much
awesome.
Firepower with Marcel Reed. The Aggies advance. Oregon versus Ohio State. Big Ten powerhouses. We saw it last year in the playoffs. Well, I don't think it's as ugly as last year's matchup. I do think Ohio State will get the best of the Ducks once again. Next quarterfinal matchup, Vanderbilt comes against Indiana. 2 Cinderella stories going against, but guess
Nobody
what? They're not
beats
Cinderellas
Indiana
anymore.
this
They're
early.
really good football teams.
Especially,
this one, though,
I
goes
think
to
that
Kirk
they
Cignetti
would,
and Fernando Mendoza. They move on.
They would
Last
go
one,
right after
Miami
Vanderbilt the
versus
right way
Bama.
to
A couple
approach
of
it.
proud programs going toe-to-toe, but this is where Miami's run comes to an
Cignett's
end.
one of
Kalen DeBoer
the
gets
greatest
it done,
coaches I've
advances
seen.
Now, what
to
do
the
you
next
think?
round.
You
First
think,
semifinal
if
matchup,
Beck doesn't
Texas
get the
A&M
interceptions,
versus
I
Ohio
think he
State.
can
I'm going to
beat
give the
Bama.
edge to that Ohio State defense. And also Julian Sand, who's been crushing it, completing 80%
He's
of the
missing
passes.
somebody.
Buckeyes
I got
move
you.
on to the
I'm telling
championship.
you.
On the other side, Indiana versus Alabama. Kirk Cignetti versus Kalen DeBoer. Could Indiana shock the world and get the best team in the SEC right now?
Shock the world?
I don't think so. I think
Yes.
Bama
Yes, they can.
squeezes by for a chance
Oh,
at
heck
a
yeah.
national
They could
championship.
crush
And in the
Bama,
national
Pete.
championship game,
I mean
we've
it.
got
I
the
think they
And I
could.
like Bama,
versus
but
the
you know
Tide.
what?
Who comes out on top?
They're
It's
playing at an
classic
elite
SEC
level.
versus Big Ten matchup. But you know what? Ryan Day's squad looks primed and ready to repeat. The Buckeyes get it done.
That is
This
true,
team
though.
is
Ohio
better
State,
than
that
last year's,
defense
which
is
makes
unreal.
them
And
so
a
scary.
repeat.
I like his breakdown, John. Why don't we jump to college football, then we'll do a little NFL. So here's what I'll say.
All right.
We've got 5 teams that are still undefeated right now, which is pretty impressive, actually. You got Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, Georgia Tech, and BYU. Now, let's pull out BYU for a second and talk about them. They're 8-0. They're old school football still to some degree. They've got a quarterback, John, that actually is a dual threat, which I think is the way the college football is starting to move a little bit more and more in that direction. You look at Georgia Tech, same thing, a few others out there where they can run the ball pretty well. So I like what they've got at BYU. The fact that they were able to beat in the Holy War and beat up on Utah. I watched Utah the other day. They're pretty freaking fantastic football team, John. They really are. They've got big, huge guys, Islanders and everywhere. I mean, just impressive. They got a fullback that I think weighs 310 pounds that they use in there a lot. So that's pretty interesting as well. The quarterback's got 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So they don't give up the ball very easily. Oh, by the way, he's run for 9 other touchdowns as well. So pretty impressive. Just trying to figure out this whole thing with BYU and how they do it. But here's the thing. They have a game this week that's very meaningful, and that's why I don't understand how this team didn't get in there. They're going to play Texas Tech this weekend. I think Texas Tech beats them. And the reason I say that, John, is they have one of the top 5 offenses in all of football. We all know Texas Tech, always offense, right? They throw the ball, they do this there. They're number 5 in defense as well. Top 5, I should say, in defense as well. So when you've got the best offense in football, call it top 5, and top 5 defense, I don't know. I know that they stumbled. They had a stumble against Arizona State, but Arizona State, let's be honest, they got a good quarterback. They got a good football team. They're a team that I think a lot of people were talking a lot about first half of the year. So I look at this game as, you know what, Texas Tech maybe knocks out BYU. And if that's the case, I think Texas Tech is going to be one of those teams that's somewhere in that board that didn't even get discussed, John. What do you think about that? And were you surprised that they decided to say, hey, Brian, you're really not cutting it down here at LSU, and this is a year where we're cutting everybody before the end of the year. We're not waiting till the end of the year in November. You're losing jobs. I think it's the 11th or 12th major program that has got their coach fired already this year. And unfortunately for LSU, they just can't seem to do it even with all the talent that they've got.
Yeah, and we both know why, though, Pete, because when you have this many openings coming available for a coach, somebody's going to start picking up those guys that have been cut. And I don't know if he had the same contract, Pete, as Franklin, where he has to pursue a job. Kelly, that is, has to pursue a job, or if he can just say, nah, I'll just take the 54 mil and maybe I'll find a job at UCLA. Maybe I won't. I don't know that UCLA would pay him what he'd want, Pete, especially since Neuheisel's been doing pretty well. I know they got throttled by Indiana, but that UCLA football team is not great, not right now. They're good, but they're not great. But Neuheisel might be the guy to make them great if he gets a recruiting class and he does the Lane Kiffin kind of thing, because he's a young guy and people like that. Players like playing for a guy like him, obviously. But yeah, I think Texas Tech, I watched them, Pete, and they are good.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I don't know how you leave them off the board.
Yeah. They're just, if you're top 5 on both offense and defense, I think right away, if I was on the committee, I'd be like, how are we looking by these guys? They got one loss, and it was the Arizona State, who is not a bad football team. It's not like they were some schmuck or whatever. They're a pretty damn good football team in the conference as well and all the rest of it. So, you know what? It's always a funny thing, but we're a long ways away from the playoffs still. How about this? We're halfway through the NFL season, right? So we are in week 8, and we're going to be watching, everybody's going to be watching Monday Night Football and all the rest of it. But here's the thing, John. Right now, who do you think is probably both the most interesting as well as deserving in terms of, like, let's say a top 3 teams right now in the NFL? I'll start off, and we could go back and forth. Indianapolis Colts, Daniel Jones. What can you say about the guy? All he does is throw touchdowns. And you know what? He's nobody's fool. You show me a quarterback who's willing to throw to the tight end, Tyler Warren from Penn State, who was willing to throw to the tight end. You're going to show me a quarterback who actually understands the game, because every good quarterback has a great tight end, and it makes them even better. But they all want to throw to the deep guys, right? Because that's the exciting part of the game is, let's throw the deep ball. You know what? When you throw to the tight end, you've done things right. So I think the Colts, 7-1, by the way, are not only at the top, but they are maybe even above the top, because with that running back, Jonathan Taylor, and you've got Daniel Jones, and you got a pretty damn good defense, I'd say the Colts look pretty good.
Yeah, Indiana Jones has, turned his career around by getting out there with the Colts. And so more power to him. I love watching the kid play. He's great, Jonathan Taylor. That is so complimentary, as you and I know. Don't need to belabor it, but if you can run the ball, then you can really hurt people with the pass, because the first step that those linebackers take is to fill, not to back up, because, Taylor can freaking zip through there, and they're all trying to get him before he gets through the line of scrimmage. And that means, like you said, that the tight end's going to be wide open because they're stepping forward instead of coming back. So, yeah, I like it.
And it's why, John, Philly's gone to a Super Bowl or two or whatever. Philadelphia figured out how to run the football. And once you can figure out how to run the football and you don't have an egomaniac of a coach who doesn't want to do that, just wants to throw, you got a good shot at being a really good football team. How about the Patriots, John, with Drake May? Now, everybody kind of looked past Drake May. He's this kid out there, North Carolina kid, blah, 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 and all the rest of it. Some of his numbers are actually higher than Tom Brady's at this point in time, John. So, think about that for a second. I'm not saying he's Tom Brady. He's physically built a little bit like him, I will say that. 12 touchdowns, 2 interceptions so far this year, John. 75% completion kind of a guy. He also runs the football pretty good, like some of these other quarterbacks in the NFL now. And he throws to a guy who's also a tight end, Hunter. Hunter Henry. He is a guy who's figured it out, just like Brady did. You know what? Throw it to Gronk, and then everybody else gets open, right? So throw into the tight end once again. What do you think of the Patriots? Because they're playing pretty damn good football at 6-2.
I love them. I think they're great. Defensively, offensively, I think both sides are doing really well. I will say, Pete, that the most exciting thing I saw this weekend is a game nobody cared about. And that is that against Drake May, your buddy and mine, Myles Garrett, freaking had 5 sacks. 5 sacks, a franchise record. And they still lost. No one has ever lost. And they lost big, too, because they can't score. They have very questionable QB play and offensive coordinators and all the rest. I don't know what they thought they did in the offseason, Pete, but they didn't do it. And that's why they had to go get, the quarterback from Cincinnati, because, they just didn't. Shedeur never worked out. None of the other guys were either healthy or worked out. It was just sad. But I thought he was exceptional. That game, that's a highlight reel game. 5 sacks.
Yeah, unbelievable. It's amazing to have that good of a defense, and yet the offense just can't do a damn thing. They just can't. And those guys have had four quarterbacks, 5 quarterbacks, 4 quarterbacks, 5 quarterbacks. And yet, for whatever reason, John, at some point, don't you think you do throw Shedeur in there? Do you just say, hey, let's just see what you got? Supposedly he's hurt a little bit or whatever, dinged up, I don't know, but I don't know how.
How do you get dinged up in practice when they can't even touch him?
I'm with you on that. Lastly, I'll just say the Buccaneers, because I could say the Broncos, but I'm going to say the Buccaneers, John, because Baker Mayfield, you could hate him, but you kind of got to love him, even if you hate him, because he's changed his entire life around. He's got a great football team that he's a big part of and becoming a bigger part every day. People have fallen in love with the guy that they used to hate, right? And meanwhile, he's got 13 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's got a couple of running backs that all you got to do is decide, do we give this one to Bucky Irving or do you go to Rashad White, or what do we want to do? And then he's got receivers out the wazoo that he can throw to, especially the big kid from Ohio State. So I just look at this and just say, wow, the Buccaneers look like they're back. And you know what? Broncos ain't so bad either. They don't seem to mind that quarterback now that they drafted. They're doing pretty well, John, and they smoked somebody yesterday. I was watching a little bits and pieces of that game, but man, I had to stick mostly with the Buccaneers just because just watching them, they have an unbelievable year so far.
Bo Nix with the Broncos, I agree. When you mentioned him, he is living up to what you thought he would be when he came out of Oregon. And, you know, a lot of people just went for other names, and he looks like one of the best players out of that class, quite frankly. All right. Well, folks, we will be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Make sure you check out the QR code and go check out all of our educational and subscription offerings, and we'll see you tomorrow.